Have you ever caught yourself reacting in a way that surprised you, snapping at someone, feeling an intense jealousy, or harboring a dark thought that made you uncomfortable? Most of us have, and most of us immediately push those moments away. We tell ourselves, that's not me. But what if I told you that those moments weren't mistakes or failures, but glimpses into a part of you that's been with you all along? This part, uncomfortable, hidden, often feared, is what Carl Jung called the shadow. In this video, we're going to explore what the shadow truly is, why we've been taught to fear it, and why the path to becoming whole begins not by fighting the shadow, but by listening to it. So let's begin. Carl Jung defined the shadow as the unconscious part of your personality, made up of everything you've denied, rejected, or ignored about yourself. It's not just the bad things, it includes instincts, emotions, impulses, and even strengths you've been taught to suppress. Think of the parts of you that weren't allowed to exist growing up. Did you learn that being angry was dangerous? That being confident made you arrogant? That standing up for yourself meant being selfish? All of these parts didn't vanish. They went underground. They became your shadow, but make no mistake, the shadow doesn't stay quiet forever. It finds ways to emerge. We live in a culture that tells us to be good, to be positive, to stay in control. From a young age, we're taught to play a role, to be polite, kind, successful. And anything that doesn't fit that image, it's denied. Buried. The ego, the image you hold of yourself, wants to stay consistent. If your ego says, I'm a peaceful person, then anger has no place in your self-image. So you repress it. But repression doesn't erase the emotion. It stores it. And over time, the shadow builds. We're afraid of the shadow because it threatens the identity we've worked so hard to build. We're afraid of what we might do if we let those feelings in. But fear isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of transformation. When we ignore the shadow, it doesn't disappear. It takes control in more subtle and sometimes destructive ways. You might find yourself exploding over something small. You might sabotage your own goals. You might constantly attract people who irritate you. This is projection. When we see in others what we refuse to see in ourselves. That friend who you think is too confident, maybe it's touching a part of you that's never been allowed to feel confident. The person you can't stand because they're selfish, maybe you've never been allowed to take up space or say no. Ignoring the shadow means living a divided life. And over time, the energy it takes to maintain that division becomes exhausting. Here's the turning point. The shadow is not your enemy. Jung believed that the shadow contains gold, qualities that, when acknowledged and integrated, can bring you back into wholeness. Anger can become protection. Fear can become wisdom. Even shame, when understood, can lead to humility and compassion. The parts of you you've been taught to hide are not mistakes. They're parts of your humanity. They become dangerous when they're left unconscious, not when they're embraced with awareness. So how do we begin this process? How do we make peace with what we've spent years hiding? Start with honest reflection. Ask yourself, what do I judge in others? What do I avoid feeling? What do I fear others seeing in me? Right? Reflect. Don't edit yourself. The shadow lives in the things you don't want to admit. Notice your emotional triggers. If someone sparks a strong reaction in you, pause and ask, what part of me is being mirrored here? Often, your judgment of others is your shadow trying to be seen. You can literally speak to it. Jung called this active imagination. Sit in silence. Visualize the shadow as a figure. Ask it what it wants, what it's protecting you from. Listen, without trying to fix. Find healthy, conscious ways to express traits you've repressed. If you've suppressed assertiveness, practice saying no. If you've denied your creativity, give it time and space. Integration doesn't mean acting out harmful impulses. It means understanding them, finding their root, and choosing how to express them in a way that aligns with your values. When you integrate the shadow, you stop fighting with yourself. You stop splitting your identity into good and bad. You become whole. You feel more grounded, more authentic. You stop overreacting. You stop apologizing for your existence. Relationships improve because you're no longer projecting. And because you've accepted your own darkness, you can hold space for the complexity in others. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means being real. And realness is where true freedom begins. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's the part of you that's been pushed aside, waiting for you to come back home. It holds not only your darkness, but your strength, your creativity, your aliveness. Carl Jung once said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The path to wholeness is not about becoming someone else. It's about reclaiming all of who you are. So start small. Reflect. Listen. Get curious about the parts of you that you've been taught to fear. Because once you stop running, you'll see your shadow isn't out to destroy you. It's been trying to protect you all along. If this spoke to you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.